Hello, everyone. Wait, just 1 second. Let's see if we can get the echoes. It should be better. Testing, testing, testing. Well, hello, everyone. Have a good evening. I call the Select Board meeting to order on September 20th at 7:33 p.m. In accordance with Governor Baker's declaration of June 16th, 2021, granting certain pandemic-related authorizations related to public board and town meetings and recently extended until March 23rd, 2023, this meeting will be conducted both in person and virtually via Google Meets. To join via Google Meets, it's https://meet.google.com/gzqy-bbwm-ljt. The meeting may be recorded by SMAC Cable Television and broadcast live and may be live streamed at www.stoughtontv.org. A recording of the meeting transcript and other comprehensive record of the proceedings will be posted on the town's website and/or SMAC as soon as possible after the meeting. If live broadcast or live streaming is unsuccessful, times are approximate and items may be taken out of order at the chairman's discretion. I'm open to a motion to open our meeting, please.
So made.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. A roll call. Mr. Gito.
Here.
Mr. Cavey.
Present.
Mr. Carrara.
Here.
And Mr. McCrisky is out of town, so he's absent today, but I'm here. If you're able, I ask that you stand and salute our flag.
I can't hear you. I put you. Yeah. I put you.
Thank you so much. We'll keep things moving. First, citizens' comments. Are there any citizens' comments? Looking out in the audience and looking on the monitor, I see none. Deb, do you see anything? I'm having a problem with my eyesight tonight. Okay. All right, moving right along to select board comments. Any select board comments? Mr. Carrara, yes. Doesn't matter.
To you, Madam Chairman, I'm wondering if we can possibly, I talked to T.M. Tisdale about this, he might be able to talk to you about it too, how to handle it, but we got to do something about the telephone poles in this town that are doubled up, that have been sitting that way, some going on 3 years. They come in, they ask us, oh, can we move this pole here? We grant it, but yet they're not finishing their work all over the place. I don't know if they're waiting for the poles on Plain Street for the snow plows to finish cutting them down, but it probably wouldn't be good because the wires are still on the old poles and not on the new stuff. We've got one pole that's going on, I know it's going on 3 years. It's on Plain Street also, and it's got a connector bolted piece from pole to pole with a cone that's stapled to it or nailed to it. It's getting ridiculous. You go up Central Street to Cobb's Corner, same thing. Some of the poles have been whacked a year ago, maybe more, and they're sitting there. They have wires that are swinging. I've stopped. I've run a rip of duct tape around it just to hold them because they're flying out in the road, and then the kids are throwing them out in the road to hit the buses when they go by. It's got to stop. It's ridiculous. We have double poles everywhere. And I think we should bring them in and address it.
I agree with that. National Grid, bring our consultant in.
It
What
might
do
be,
you,
it might be Verizon. I think they own the
you
poles.
think it's a Verizon issue? Not a National Grid, for once, right? Mr. Tisdale, what do you think? Contact our
When
our
you think it's,
contact
when you
advo-
think it's appropriate to bring them in, I know we have some other pressing issues, but I mean, this, it's got to be addressed. I mean, it's, the winter's coming in
The
again.
winter's coming, winter is coming.
Yeah.
Mr. Tisdale, what do you
I'll
think?
reach out to our DPW director.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure who our Verizon contact is, but maybe we'll have him and I can have a little initial meeting with the Verizon contact, see if they have a plan in place.
Okay.
If we're sufficient with that, we can update the board. If it doesn't seem like they have a plan, maybe we can bring them in front of the board.
Excellent. That's a great next step.
I mean, I get a lot of comments because I'm around town, I'm on the side of the road, and
Right.
they'll stop and talk to, geez, this pole's been like this, is there anything you can do? And you look at it and I go, there's already a hayfield around the bottom, so you know what's going on.
Right.
It hasn't been just done. So,
Well, let's see if we can take care of that pretty quickly. Anything else, Mr. Farrell?
I only have one other thing, and I'm glad my wife isn't here. She got invited to Maine last week. I took her up because she was a little nervous. She was the keynote speaker at a Maine Clerks Conference, and it was because she has so many friends in there. One became a president. She says, Steph, why don't you tell your story to the girls so that they can see how you went from the adversity that happened to you when she almost died and was a quadriplegic and was in Spaulding rehab for 4 months to recover. And the only thing that kept her going was all she said to me is, I'm worried about my job. I want to get back to my job. I want to do this. I want to finish my schooling. And when I watched her do her PowerPoint and talk to those women because she felt relaxed, it was intense. There was tears, there was smiles, there was hugs. It was just, I was proud of my wife that she could do it because she's very shy about public speaking. And that's all I wanted to say is that Clerks Association and all around there, your town clerk is that revered by those people that they asked her to do that.
And thank you for bringing that up because we don't know all the good things that everyone does here, especially in Town Hall. And that's a wonderful thing, and that's a celebration. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Carr? No. Okay. Since I'm looking in that direction, how about you, Mr. Cavey?
I have no comments, thank you.
Thank you. How about you, Mr. Gito? Okay. The only thing, comment I had is from the MMA, and I believe at this point in time, it should be on their website, but they're asking for all municipal officials. They said for a limited time, local government employees may be eligible for expanded federal student loan forgiveness. Forgiveness, that's a big deal. And the U.S. Department of Education is asking and seeking municipal leaders to help spread the word in their communities. To take advantage of these opportunities, employees must act by October 31st. So for all of those that took out loans to get, to go to school and expand their skills, please, there's an opportunity for loan forgiveness. And that's all I had. Turn it over to you, Mr. Tisdale.
Pretty boring tonight, no comments.
Okay, great. Let's move right along to our consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone would like to pull? And Mr. Gito, which one would that be? B, C, D, Okay. Okay, let's address those first. Can I get a second?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the ones we're approving? We repeat the ones that we are currently approving?
A, D, E, and F.
Thank you. Second.
Wait just a minute. I would like to pull D, please.
And I'll amend my motion.
Okay, thank you.
A, E, and F.
I'll second those.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Yes, Mr. Gito, would you take the lead on the ones you wanted to pull?
For item B, approve hometown heroes banners program. Is there any discussion on that? I see someone here that might like to talk on that.
Yes, there may, please share, because this is new. Hello there, hi. Please state your name and your title. Oh, yes.
I'm Sean Butrica. I'm the Stoughton Veteran Service Officer.
Hello, nice seeing you again.
Good to see you guys.
Tell us a little bit about this.
So this program, and I say program, it's really just a series of things we have to do for this, for these banners. Will run in a specific way. People will sponsor, usually the families, but businesses or departments will sponsor banners that we will place on the poles around town that will be of people who served honorably, and it will show the photo of them in uniform and what war and the years and, you know, if they passed or if they didn't, certain information will go on there. What will be included with that would be a small commemorative banner that will be given to the families, and they are taken down during the winter months and put back up, and they last about 3 years each.
Would you say that last part again?
The length or the...
Yeah, the length.
So they, these banners last around 3 or more years, as long as they're taken down before the first ice storm, just like most of these printed banners. But right after the last ice storm, they go up, and then they come down right before the first one. And I think it's a great way for Stoughton to show their support. And this is a program that has ample room for expansion. We have tons of poles in town, and once they're up, replacing them is easy. It costs like $50 to replace a banner, and they last years and years. And like I said, it's a good way for Stoughton to show how much they care about the veterans, the people who signed up. You know,
Where are these banners?
where
Where are they going to be put up?
So it's been thrown around. Certain towns, they have more leeway. I think starting the program off, we should pick one location, the center, put them up, and see how many we get, what the interest is, and eventually, once that expands, you know, we could bring it back and discuss possibly the firefighters maybe in front of, on their streets, in front of the buildings, the police, those who served who are police or who, you know, were retired in front of them. But I think starting off, we should do right down the Main Street center just to show off the program and specifically our veterans.
I'm a veteran. My father was a veteran. He served during all of World War II and lived through it. So, I mean, he wasn't in action. Thank God for him and for me. Stoughton does a lot of things for the veterans. We have squares. We name streets for veterans. We have a park for veterans. And I think that all of those things are good. And I think that you're doing a fine job with your efforts to help veterans since you've come on. And I think you've done a very good job at that. But I think that having banners in the square basically just appropriates the square in the town for one purpose. And I think the town is more than veterans. I think when banners go up, they ought to represent sort of a sense of the spirit of the town or the direction of the town. We've done an awful lot for the veterans. And I went online and looked at this program just briefly. Didn't have any sense that this was going to be coming up and didn't have an awful lot of chance to research it. I don't think this is a really good idea. And again, I don't say that because I don't like veterans. I like myself too. But I say it for the reasons that I mentioned. And I hope that we don't approve this evening. If we want to deal with it, then perhaps we should think about it a little bit more. But that's just my view on that. But I did want to raise that issue.
Mr. Carrara.
If you go to, like Melrose in Malden, they have these banners, and they have a picture of the individual in his uniform, and it says, "Served proudly," and it has like a date. It doesn't say they're better than anybody else. It just, somebody bought that banner, and it was allowed to go up. And it's in their downtowns, and you go out, and they got some parks that have poles, and there's like 2 that hang off, 1 on each side, and I like them. I think the veterans, they give us the right to make the decisions that we make here. They're not going to be around for a long time. Their siblings are getting older and stuff like that. And, you know, the World War II was the proudest veterans and families that, you know, due to the way society takes wars. And, you know, my thing is, these people deserve any kind of recognition that we can give them. If the money isn't coming out of our pockets in this building, I have no problem giving to it. I like to give to that stuff. I was too young to go. My father wouldn't sign on the line. He told the Marine guy that I could take all the orders from him that he could give me. So I think it's a good thing. He's trying to, you know, bolster stuff. I know we can put up Easter ones too, and maybe we start at Faxon Park. Go around Faxon Park, see how it works out. If we get more, maybe we can expand. Maybe we can go 138 out of the center to the Canton line, or up as far as Amelia's Restaurant, one side, whatever. See how that works. That's not going to eat up the downtown and stuff like that. I was almost going to say, if there isn't a name on a street sign, hang it there till it's time to take it down. It's not saying that that's that guy's square. It's just saying Joe Downey was a Marine veteran. He fought in World War II proudly, or he served, like Lou's dad. So he didn't go over he still wore the uniform. He was there. So I don't think we should say no.
Do you,
Mr. KV, before we move forward, did you have something to say on this topic? Before I recognize Ms. Walsh.
No, I'm in support of this. I think there are a number of veterans who. Let me start from a different place and just say that one of the most important aspects of the culture of our town, one of the very important aspects, I should say, of the culture of our town has been recognizing veterans, and in a number of ways, as Mr. Gito has mentioned, and continue to do that through the naming of streets by using the names of veterans, even during many of our non-veteran related parades, other than just the Veterans Day Parade and the Memorial Day Parade. We continue to honor our veterans during the 4th of July celebrations. I think it's just part of the culture of our town, and I think it's fitting with our ethos, our respect for the veterans, and just the kind of people we want to be. So I'm in favor of it. I think it fits very much with what we have done in the past, and I expect we'll continue to do in the future. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. KV. I would like to recognize Ms. Walsh. Please step forward, say your name and precinct, please.
Cynthia Walsh, Precinct 3. I'm also a charter member of the Stoughton Veterans Memorial Square Committee. In order to have a street name for you at Stoughton, you have to have been killed in action. In order to have a square, you've had to, some very strict criteria, one of which is 20 years of public service. Now, a lot of people can't make that hurdle. A member of my family is a Vietnam veteran. Because of Agent Orange, he's had to fight 4 different cancers. He also served this community as a paid employee, and that service doesn't count as public service. So he doesn't get a square, and he doesn't get a street. But he can have a banner. I think the only 2 criteria for the banner should be an honorable discharge and no felony record. That's it. Thousands of residents of Stoughton have served. They're not going to get a square. They're not going to get a street. But their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and other relatives, I can't imagine how much more pride they could feel if just for a year or a couple of months, their family member who served without the big, the Silver Star, the Medal of Honor, or all that, the ordinary Americans who signed up, put their lives on the line, even if they were clerk typists, they joined up. That means they could be sent to the front lines. In the way war is fought nowadays, even if you're a clerk typist, a bomb can fall on your head from the enemy. I really think this is such a small thing to do for the thousands of Stoughton residents who've served.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Sean, did you have something else to say on that? You don't necessarily have to, because I was ready to call a vote, but please.
I just want to add, can you hear me? I just wanted to add that anytime you see me up here, besides for the budgets, it'll be for something that the community has asked me to put forward, and this is definitely one of those things. So when the community, again, asked me for this, I have to support them in that. It is, as she said, reasonable. It costs us nothing. We're not buying these. We have a plan to put them up. It seems like a no-brainer, and I will always be on the side of the community because that's why I'm here. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you very much. And I'm in favor of this also because I believe it's a small thing that we can do to celebrate our men and women that served. So I'm open to a motion, just this one. I know we have a couple of others that we have to address on the consent agenda, but for this one, I'm open.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye, and we have one no.
Sir, I want you to know that you need not be concerned about, when you bring something forward, that's a good thing. So if you were concerned with my saying something that was not in favor of your proposal, please put that out of your mind. Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Next item that you had pulled, or you want to go right in line, Mr. Gito? I pulled D. Which,
I sent comments on the minutes of the meeting. I don't know whether people looked at it or not, but that's what I said. I want those items in there.
they have been, so we can approve those minutes as
No one has a
amended?
problem with that? That would be fine.
No problem at all, but my fellow board members, it wasn't any, were you here that day? Yeah, they're in our packet.
So,
Motion to approve
motion to approve with the amendments.
as amended. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Good. Am I next in line, pulling number D? This is the application for a one-day beer permit of First Parish Church at 790 Washington Street, Brewfest, October 1st. Please approach and say your name and your affiliation with the organization or the event.
Hi, I'm Susan Stewart Rassicot, and I'm a member of First Parish Stoughton. I filled out the application.
Hello there.
Good evening. Nathan Cleveland, Chair of the Energy and Sustainability Committee for the town, and we're co-hosting the event with the church.
Thank you. Did you want to tell us a little bit about the event, and then I can say why I wanted to pull it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we are running what we're calling the second annual Stoughton Brewfest annual, used loosely since we last did this in 2019 before COVID. And what we're doing is our committee is working with the church to host a community event. We'll have local breweries there, food trucks, local vendors, other vendors in the energy and sustainability space, solar, energy efficiency, folks from Mass Save. And the idea is to bring folks together to learn about these issues and have a nice day, having a beer, having some food out on the lawn while learning about some important issues. And the other underpinning element to this is we are looking to raise money for charity. So all the proceeds from the event will be going to support the local food banks and the Evelyn House. So that is the gist of the event. And so we are hoping that you'll approve our permit.
So this is a one-day beer and wine?
No, it's just beer.
Here.
It's just beer. We're not selling
Thought you
wine
said
at this
wine.
event. I think we didn't ask for wine. But the other part of it is that we are going to have, coffee and lemonade there and children's games and lawn games, so that it is being recognized as a family event that people can come and have fun. There are going to be some local musicians coming and playing as well, so.
Any questions by my fellow board members regarding this event? Okay. I can tell you why.
Only a comment, and that is, good luck to you.
Thank you.
I wanted to take a moment to discuss, I believe the emails kind of crossed and it may not be applicable, but I just wanted to check. And it had to do with covering the cost of detail officers. Is that true? Because if that is, then I pulled it correctly.
Yes, so fundamentally, we are looking for approval of the one-day beer permit. We'll need that to run the event. In the course of planning for the event, it was brought to my attention that in 2019, when we ran the event, the town also covered the cost of the police detail that we'll need in order to have the event. And so I had reached out to just ask if that was something that we could discuss and if the town would be open to doing that as they had for our previous event. As I said, we're doing this to raise money for charity, and so any costs that we can avoid are certainly appreciated. But yes, that was a sort of secondary ask. But if the town opts not to do that, we'll still move forward with the event. But I did want to make sure that that was brought up for consideration at least.
So yes, behind the scenes, some research was done on that point. And I don't know if Brian Holmes or Deputy Chief Brian Holmes is in the audience, but I do have a response from him in that regard. Has it happened before? That is providing, the town covering the cost of detail officers, and I was informed, no, that didn't happen, so something else must have happened in relation to that. And then I did ask Bill Rowe, what does Mass General Law say in reference to municipalities donating funds to nonprofits? And he said, so before I answer, is Mr. Rowe on the line so he can speak directly to that Mass General Law, because I was informed no. Oh, I see his name. Hello, Mr. Rowe.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Bill Rowe, Town Accountant.
How are you doing? Okay.
Good. So the state constitution is pretty clear. It's called the Anti-8 Amendment to the Constitution. It basically just says public funds cannot be used for private purposes. Now, how that's interpreted would be, I suppose up to the board. If an organization is providing a municipal purpose or service to the town, then that would be permitted. We're not donating money. We're paying for a service. So the example would be somebody like there was a nonprofit that came in and built low-income deed-restricted housing, and that was deemed to be not a donation from the town, but the provision of a service to the town. So in that particular case, but donations or gifts to individuals and private organizations, no, that's prohibited specifically. So.
Yes.
Yeah, so my apologies, Madam Chair. It appears that some wires may have gotten crossed on our end. I wasn't the one working on those logistics when we did the event in 2019. That's the information that I was given by the person who was doing that. That appears not to have been the case, so I apologize for the miscommunication.
No apologies necessary. I wanted to check as well, because I didn't want to set a precedent and get us all in trouble. So thank you so much for being forthright. So other than that, I ask the board if they have a motion to approve the permit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So that's for the permit, but
Thank you
not
very
for the
much.
detail.
And
Thank
hope
you.
to see you all there, October 1st.
Thank you. Moving right along. What was the? G and H. G is pulled.
Where these are two labor contracts, when they just were in our packet, I really would like a little bit of time to look at them. And perhaps we could postpone them to the next regular meeting?
Table or postpone?
Yes, whatever one makes sense, I mean,
Technically, it's postponed.
postpone. Thank
Okay.
you.
Can I get a
I'd
motion?
like to postpone items G and H to the next regular meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And that's it for consent agenda items, and we move right along to update on the status of the fire station. Oh, yes,
They're already done.
we approve those first. It's- Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. Moving right along to number 6, update on the fire station. Chief Carroll, Deputy Chief, Mr. Tisdale. Anyone else that you would like to step forward?
Good evening. I believe Mr. Tisdale is going to actually do the presentation and any questions or whatnot.
Excellent.
All right.
The floor is yours, Mr. Tisdale.
Thank you, Mike. Again, this is a project update. Last time, if the board can remember, we updated you, I believe, June 28th, and we said we'd come back in the middle of September to give you another update at that meeting. So that's exactly what this is. A lot have been completed since the last meeting, and you'll see in our presentation. You can go to the next slide. Geez, I apologize. We have our owner's project managers here tonight with us, Pomeroy. And we also have our architects, Doran Whittier, with us tonight. Craig Horsfall, our assistant town engineer, and planner. Currently, he's wearing a few hats. And then our fire department with us tonight. And I apologize if I'm missing anybody. All right, moving on. The second slide in this is just a 2D rendering of the station number 1 on Prospect Street, a front view of it. I believe we presented something similar to you last meeting. This is just an updated version of that. Next slide, please. Nothing has changed in the project schedule. We're right on schedule. For this particular project, the project's still scheduled to be bid in January, the end of January timeframe, which is the same point in time as the last update we gave you. Some main accomplishments that we've made since the last meeting is we've done geotechnical investigations. Those have been completed. The underground storage tank has been removed. A real critical step in the whole process, the design development phase has been completed. We also have a design development estimate completed, which we'll go over tonight. Stormwater test pits have been finished. A zoning review with the building commissioner has been completed. We've started on Freeman Street. We've done schematic design on that. We've started it. It's not finished. Site plan permitting has begun. We'll be having meetings with the Planning Board and Conservation Commission the end of September, October, beginning of October timeframe. We've had hazmat specifications and planning started, and we've done begun the site survey for Freeman Street. Next slide, please. This slide sort of summarizes. Looks like there might be a little format issue there, but summarizes where we've been since pretty much when Robin came about and got the 2.9 interest rate with the original lump sum of money. She locked that rate in, and actually, it says August up there, but that was actually February of 2022. So that's a typo. It should be February 2022. She recalculated what the annual payment to the taxpayer would be, and that came out to $54 a year, which was actually less than what she stated at the September 7th Select Board meeting, which was $76.50. And then October 12th, 2021 meeting to the residents, she came back at $63 per year. So that number was much lower than what was presented to the public, which was great. We got a low interest rate. Everything was good. Obviously, we came back to you in June. Costs did go a little higher. As you know, we presented that to you. The board endorsed us to keep moving forward with the project. At that point in time, with the increased cost, the numbers came at $63 a year, which matched that number that was presented to the residents on October 12, 2021. Currently, you'll see the current estimated project cost is $31,136,000. So that's obviously an increase from the total project cost in June. We have completed a critical part of the project, which is the design development phase. The plans, which that means the plans are pretty far along. They've had two different estimators look at the plans. They reconciled very closely to each other. Our owner's project manager can talk about the specific delta in that, but generally the number's solid that we have, the 31,136, based on two different estimators with current bid numbers for the current climate out there. With that being said, rolling all the calculations together, it comes out to $67 per year for the average $450,000 home in Stoughton. So, as you can see, it falls in line. It is $4 more than last time, but it is still very close to the yearly impact on a residential taxpayer of a $450,000 home. Next slide, please. The next steps, we're going to be moving into construction documents. Obviously, we're in the site plan phase right now. Once the site plans are permitted by the town, the planning board, the conservation commission, we can prepare the construction documents. We can also prepare a construction cost estimate at that time. That will be all done right prior to the bid starting, which would be in the end of January, and we expect the bids to be awarded in March. Next slide, please. This is just a front view with a low color on what the Prospect Street Station 1 will look like. That's all I got to add. I know the fire chief probably has a few words he'd like to say.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, as you know, the town manager pointed out that everything seems to be on schedule. Obviously, there's one thing we can't control, and that's the economy in the world right now and the inflation. And we understand that. We continuously look at other resources for funding. There's a couple things that I was just on a virtual meeting yesterday for DFS. We're in the governor's bill, I believe $425,000 or $450,000 was earmarked towards Freeman Street. So there's certain things I have to do. One is that meeting with DFS. I just make sure that I understand the, where that money is to be used. It just kind of protects us, as we use, or we're allotted money. Again, still looking at grants. There are still some grants out there. I'm sure that we can adjust to that, but it hasn't gone out for bid yet. We're hoping that everything kind of plateaus, and maybe even drops. I can see some a little bit of a difference in gas prices, which is actually some sort of sign. And we're open for any questions. And of course, like the town manager said, Rick Pomeroy and Glenn are here, so they can also answer any questions in reference to that.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to my fellow Select Board members. Do you have any questions for the team?
A couple.
Okay. Vice Chair Cavey?
Thank you very much. This is obviously a very helpful presentation. Thank you very much for just keeping us up to date on this. Just to kind of reiterate my understanding of this, currently the scope of this project has been more or less set. There's no major changes in the scope from the last time we reported to this time. I know that from the first time to the second time, I think there was like a minor changes in scope. There's a couple things that were removed from the original plan, minor stuff, but ultimately now the scope has been set. Schedule is set, and we're on target to reach our schedule. The only thing the only component that has been somewhat frustrating to monitor are the financials because it's just the difficulty with making these predictions. And that's true in a good year. This year has been an especially wild one. But what I'm seeing now is what's coming closer to, and I want to make sure I'm kind of picking the words correctly here. Up until now, we had an estimate for the project, but we didn't have a budget for the project. And because we had not yet gone out to bid, we didn't have anything more than some sort of rough estimates of what things would cost. At this point, do we have something that would sort of formally be understood as a budget, or are we still would that be part of the next step where we start looking at actually going out to bid and getting our exact numbers?
I'm going to hand that question over to our owner's project manager.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hello, you want to pull up a chair? Yeah.
You can just pick up the mic if you'd like.
Oh, okay. Good evening. Rick Pomeroy, Pomeroy Associates. Everything we're working off of right now is estimates. Our best number is going to be when we receive the bid. We have been riding this wave. We're starting to see our numbers settling down. It's been very difficult because of what's happening in the economy right now. But we have a number of line items in our soft cost. We're starting to assemble those now and start lining up purchases for those as well. But everything is based on an estimated value. And that's why in our budget we carry a contingency for that buffer. But our best number is going to be when we receive those bids. The estimators are being very conservative because things are changing on an hourly basis. But right now we do not have firm numbers until we have that bid.
And so I appreciate that. I understand the frustration. Actually, I needed like a very sort of somewhat insignificant piece of like medical equipment for myself, and I got because of like the chip shortage. I was on like a 6-month waiting list, and and everything, all the costs were like astronomical. So I can appreciate from a personal level like how unpredictable these things can be. I think anybody who's actually tried to buy a car anytime in the last little while is also aware that you're put on a waiting list and you have to wait for the car to be shipped from Japan, and it could be several months before you see it. So I really appreciate how completely unpredictable it is. We are still under what we are able to borrow for this project by what I view as a fairly significant amount. Because right now the total net borrowing would be $24.7 million. Could you just remind me what the limit is? It was a 29. The article approved the borrowing of 27.3. 3. Okay. Yeah. So we have a healthy cushion there. We are getting the ARPA funds to address that, and then who knows what the coming coming grants might allow. I know that we've been in contact with our congressional delegation as well. They're very much aware of the needs of this project, and to the extent that they're able to help, I know they're eager to. But that's also unpredictable on their end. But I think everyone's in agreement that this is a critical project. The things are unpredictable, and it looks like they're being managed. All of those sort of unknowns, in my view, are being managed as well as they can be. So I appreciate the effort you guys are putting into this. Thank you. Sorry.
I could add one more thing. I just want, your town manager had mentioned we had two estimators, and we went through a first estimate and a reconciliation estimate with both estimators. And the two estimators we used were extremely conservative. They're extremely conservative estimators, and we feel that's good business practice to protect the town and our budget. They were pre-reconciliation and post-reconciliation. They were within 0.5% of one another, which we find to be fairly rare in this industry. Estimators see things in different ways, but it's sort of a recognition as to the quality of the documents that are being produced. It's also a recognition as to what they're seeing in the industry, and two different estimators from different companies are looking at it the same way. So we felt some comfort in that, just knowing that we're all seeing things the same way.
Mr. Gito?
Where were the basic increases in cost?
I would, I couldn't pinpoint any major areas. I think just across the board, to be frank with you.
Okay. I have one more question, and I guess it's relating to why we're not able to do any site work ahead of time. I mean, it would almost seem like it would make sense to get that out of the way, but
We're looking at doing the demolition early, but the majority of the site work is you really want to put it out to bid, and if we were doing it early, you would put out a separate bid package, and there's a certain level of responsibility that one takes when you separate contracts with the site development. So we've seen instances where in communities we may level the building and make it pad ready, but leave all of the utilities and everything else for the one contractor, so there's none of this going on or finger pointing. So in this case, the way our process is going, we're still in the permitting and approval phase, and so there's nothing we could do at this point. And by the time we're done with all of our permitting, we'll be just about ready to put it out to bid. So in this project, separating the bid doesn't do us much.
thank you. The other thing, what is the date when someone's going to see some work going on there?
Well, we have been out there. We're doing our soil expert
No, I'm not. I'm talking about
actual work.
actual work.
Yeah. We're looking to bid come this January, February. So if all things go well and we get contractor underway, we'd be looking at March, April for getting a shovel in the ground.
Of 2023.
That's correct.
Thank you. I mean, I think that's kind of important to let people know that they can expect to see something happening someday. Thank you very much.
Hello? Online? Deborah, can you please mute? Oh, my goodness. You think SMAC can?
Should be good now.
No, you have it. Okay. Looks like you have it all under control, Deborah. All right.
Maybe it was interesting. Maybe we want to listen.
Yeah, I wonder what they were talking.
I know. If I could just speak to that point, Mr. Tito,
Yes, Chief.
Yes, thank you. That is a question I get a lot, not only from residents, from family, from even some members on the department. I can tell you that if the amount of work that goes into this far exceeds anything I had expected, But I think what you see, and I typically compare it to Station 2 back when, that was built, is the professionalism and the amount of detail that goes into this, so we're not left with possibly the same type of situation. The vetting that goes on, the expertise in not only Pomeroy, but also Dorn Whittier, I think what happens is maybe once we do start seeing, shovels hit the ground, it expedites that, but it also protects everything. It is having that person that is, this is what they do, as opposed to, I know back then we used to do clerk of the works, and, and there'd be contractors that would come in. This is a totally different process. The amount of emails that go on between my assistant chief, Maycumber, and Glenn and Taylor from Pomeroy, it's amazing. It's nonstop. As a matter of fact, tomorrow we have, what ends up being a 2.5, 3-hour meeting with interiors. It's going on, and feel free to come by. You can see all that work. But I promise you, there's work being done. I think that this is what we're doing is we're prepping the battleground, and once that is set off, I think that you're going to see, you'll be very happy with the work, and then obviously the result.
Right. Thank you. It's just important to let people know what they can expect. And that's the reason for the question.
Oh, I
mean,
agree.
I'm not.
Oh, no, I
I'm
understand
not
it.
concerned. I'm happy that you're working hard.
No, I
And
think-
we're not seeing anything.
No,
because-
I don't take it as that. I think it's important that people understand it. There's always this, in Stoughton, we tend to go to our, worst-case scenario, worst history as to whether it's building or whether it's certain situations. And I can tell you that there's things in place to prevent that now. It's quite impressive when you see, the amount of detail going into these plans, and it's nonstop. And I get the whole idea of, if you're doing your kitchen over, you want to see them show up and start ripping them apart. But the amount of work that's being prepped, I just want others to know that just because there's nothing necessarily, no excavators on the property and things aren't being ripped apart, I think the due diligence is being done, so that's going to expedite the next phase. Okay.
Mr. Carrara, did you have any questions?
I don't have any
Comments?
questions. I just follow up on some of the comments. No work's going to be done till we go through permitting process. You got Concom to go through. There's going to be hearings. Everything's got to be laid out before a machine goes in there and starts digging. So it's not even a guess. It's not even a question. The job hasn't gone out to bid. You can't start it. You got to have the guy who's going to do the ground. Then they'll be screaming for the building while he's trying to put up walls. I mean, it's just a very simple process that it takes time. And these guys are doing it. They're trying to, push it as fast as they can. I'm in the business. I'm out there. They won't even hold prices for 30 days, and we're here questioning stuff. You don't buy the stuff and put it in your garage, you ain't going to get it. It's not coming. Things aren't coming down like you thought. They've flattened out for a while. Now they're going back up. Gas is dropping, but the maker of all the evil isn't, and that's diesel fuel. That's right up there. So that's what's happening. It's just, you could count on a price being there for 4 or 5 months, 6 months, maybe a year. Now they won't even, you're talking 15 days, that's nothing. So be prepared.
Thank you. Any other comments? No. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your update, estimated cost, next steps. We look forward to seeing you again at the next juncture. Thank you. The next agenda item is number 7, Stoughton Redevelopment Authority update Urban Renewal Plan. We'll have a joint meeting, and we will open the joint meeting. Please step forward and state your name after we open up the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you again, Madam Chair. As Chair of the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority, I'm going to call my meeting to order. Do I have a motion to open my meeting?
So moved.
We have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We have a quorum, Madam Chair. I want to take a minute and thank you for having us here tonight. As I said, my name is Mark Zamani, and I am Chair of the Redevelopment Authority. With me is Reggie Nunnally, our treasurer, and Roberta Harback, our state appointee, and my program administrator, Donna Drutras, is taking notes for us. And Deborah, thank you for, I saw it up, but eventually we'll get the presentation up. I will,
It's not on the TV, just so everybody knows. It's a purple.
yeah, that's a good point. SMAC is not televising this meeting tonight.
Purple.
Okay, yep. Just a point of reference.
So to start and give a summary to my fellow board members, first, the process will be, Mr. Zamanian, you'll give us an overview of your urban renewal plan, and then we'll ask some questions, and then we'll go from there. And I think you have a question for us afterwards regarding either a work group or
Yes.
subgroup or something.
Yeah, and if I might, Madam Chair, I welcome questions, but I do think it's appropriate to take those questions under advisement and have that discussion with our consultant and the rest of the authority so we can give you a comprehensive answer. I mean, if it's something simple, I'll certainly do my best, but just be aware, all of you select board members, that I want to be thoroughly prepared for any questions and rather not shoot from the hip on this one, so.
Understand
well
completely.
Thank you, Deborah, that's up now. Could you advance 2 slides, please? Thank you. So what is an urban renewal plan? An urban renewal plan is a state program that gives redevelopment authorities the ability to take identified actions to economically revitalize underperforming areas within a community. Those would be buildings that aren't being effectively utilized in some fashion or developed. They could be blighted areas for a number of reasons, things like that. So the benefits of an urban renewal plan is to attract public and private investment, stimulate economic growth, increase tax base, and create local jobs. It also enables the acquisition of land assembly, so taking a lot of smaller parcels, which we have a number of here in our center, although our latest zoning update corrected some of that. It certainly didn't eliminate all of it. It also allows us to negotiate for acquisition of identified parcels, so we can purchase parcels, put them together, things like that, move them forward to a developer. And it identifies upgraded and expanded public realm and infrastructure needed to support that new development. Basically, what we're saying is we can design projects for developers that might not have the capacity. This is good for us because the authority is here as part of the town. So one thing I think we've heard a lot of in recent history is we want to do things that the town wants. We don't want to be reactive. We want to be proactive. This gives us an opportunity to be proactive. And, we can work through the legal issues, the process part of putting a site together and developing a site. We can assist with either Conservation Commission, Planning Board, local, internal problems with the building department. Those are all things that we can facilitate or liaise for developers that might want a project but don't have the ability to do those things. They don't have a team of those people. Another big part of this is we have the ability to communicate with the town and the various board members in town that are affected by this, communicate with the residents, and communicate with the developers, so that once again, Stoughton gets what it is we want. I heard it a lot during the zoning process. We have to stop zoning for the things we don't want and start zoning for the things we do. The urban renewal plan is a lot like that. We have to start focusing on what the town as a whole wants to see happen here, not so much what we don't want to have happen. Because when we focus on the positive, we get much better results. Next slide, please, Deborah. So the vision statement, if you will, of the urban renewal plan directly mirrors the master plan that was put together for the town. And I quote, "The Stoughton downtown should be the municipal, social, and cultural heart of the community, with a strong sense of place and belonging for residents, employees, and business owners." For me, I think of vision, and it's important moving forward that we start to listen to the residents, but what defines us here in Stoughton? Well, one thing personally I can think of, and this town invests a great deal of time and energy into, is music. I mean, we have a phenomenal musical department at the high school. Every time I hear the band, it blows me away. These kids are well put together, well coached, well trained. We're a musical town. You look at some of the talent that has come out of here in Stoughton, both old and new. We have the oldest musical society in America. Clearly, music is something that defines Stoughton. From my opinion, this is a nice, neat package, the vision statement that is up there on the screen. But I really want to hear what the Stoughton residents feel about what their vision for this town is, regardless of what that vision is. And our job is to put that together and bring it back to the residents in this board as a cohesive package. Next slide, please, Deborah. So our goals, again, mirror the master plan that was developed. We're here to address existing conditions that prevent the private market from investing in the Stoughton downtown. Build capacity within the SRA so that the organization can react effectively to changes in the economic and physical environment of the SDRP, the Stoughton Stoughton Downtown Redevelopment Plan area, which is the footprint that you have all seen in the past. Build relationships with the community and other town entities that have a role in the SDRP area, and identify, plan for, and undertake projects or a project that act as a catalyst for the revitalization of the downtown. Some of these things we've already touched on tonight, so I'm not going to go back over them, but what are some of the things that we have heard to date, and we still have a long road ahead of us, but from private development and some of the citizens here, is our downtown area is repressed. And a big part of that, or at least certainly an important part, is the noise factor, the train. That is already well underway of being addressed. This town has done a study on this, and through our hard work and the select board's hard work, our senator brought that before the legislation to assist in paying for that. So that's a wonderful thing, and that's going to be a big thing off of our plate. If that can happen, then we can focus on re-energizing this downtown, creating open space within what's existing, creating a more walkable area for pedestrians and a more user-friendly atmosphere so that somebody's going to want to take a walk into the center, have a bite to eat. meet with their family, take a walk through some of the park areas or some of the treed areas. It's also going to indirectly affect the town in positive ways when it comes to traffic. One of the biggest complaints is it's a log jam down here, basically from 3:30 until about 6:30. By bringing attractions to our center, we're slowing people down a little. We're getting them to stop. Hey, instead of just driving through and hoping and praying I get out of here, why don't I stop? I'm gonna get a drink. My wife or husband or what have you will meet me in the center. We'll grab a bite to eat, maybe see a show. That actually slows people down. So please, yeah. So we can move to the next slide, Deborah. So some of the goals, and you see the potential URP actions here, partnerships, key parcel acquisition, infrastructure updates, but one of the things, or some of the things we can do is to combine these smaller lots, making development possible. We could tap into the relationships that we're building and have with our banks, our private developers, key grant funding from the state. There's a ton of money out there right now that we can tap into. Other towns are doing it. I don't want to be left behind on that. And again, probably the most important piece of this is the communication between other boards, and most importantly, our residents, the ones who will come and use this area. Next slide, Deborah. This is an overall map, and I would encourage you to study this. This was in your packet and gives you a great deal of input as to what some of the potential possibilities are here in the downtown. We know that parking is an issue, and we want to address parking here. I'd love to see some streetscaping happen where some of that parallel parking, where it's not really needed, could be converted into green space and utilized by some of our restaurants and hopefully future restaurants, increasing their ability to serve their clients and further beautifying the downtown. This can happen in a number of different places, particularly around the train station. We saw the train station as sort of a core or key piece of open space that really opens everything else up. Now, we've all talked about the post office and we've heard lots about it. At this point in time, that's not a viable option. It's certainly a part of the future, perhaps. But today, instead of arguing or worrying about how to get a post office purchase from the government, why don't we focus on what we do have? And we have some real treasures here, including the train station. So if I could, Deborah, get you to jump to the last slide, please. One more. There, perfect, thank you. So what can we do to attract private investment? We've talked about a lot of these things already, so I'm going to sort of give you a synopsis. We can promote the URP, which is the Urban Renewal Plan, and the vision that we have as a town for the downtown area. We can seek grant funding for public realm and infrastructure upgrades. We can attract and facilitate private investment, and we can form public-private partnerships to assist in ongoing or future redevelopment projects. And at this point in time, I think I'm going to stop because I know you have a busy schedule tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chairman Zamanian. I'll turn any questions over to my fellow Select Board members.
I have a couple questions.
Do you want to go first, Stevie?
You can go ahead. All yours.
The most important thing in that layout of what you just laid out, and I've been looking at it, the way you get people to stop in isn't going to be angle parking, isn't going to be 3 spaces over there or 4 over there. We got to get it, like I said, you got to put in a parking garage. Won't cost the town anything because the grant money is this deep. in Boston at the State House. Timothy will get it for us. We got the piece of property. It's got to happen that way. People don't want to come to something that we've built and walk 1,700 feet, 1,500 feet. I'll tell you something, I wouldn't rent in the downtown if I had to walk 1,500 feet. The only way you're going to bring that theater back or anything, you got to look at what Norwood did. They got some property that they put in the lots in the back. I hear some talk that they're looking at a parking garage too, because they got a spot that might falter and they're going to jump on it. That's proactive. We have to think that way. That's the major thing in this town. The next major thing is to get 139 the hell out of the center, like I told them when I was in my first 9 years, when they were doing the revitalization in the downtown. I said to somebody, why can't we move 139 where it starts in our center up to the biggest intersection in town, which is Central Street and 138, where people can make rights, lefts. It's all controlled there. You make a truck route, they don't want to come, they can't come down into the center anymore. You send them down to that light, make them go through the center if they have to. Or most of them are delirious. They don't know that they're supposed to be on the other end to go to Canton. They're trying to fight through the square to go where they can't go. That's two major things before we start partnerships and stuff like that. People aren't going to listen to us if we don't have that infrastructure to give them. Because you build all this stuff, we have all these employees. They got to have a place to park too. So that's why, that's a key thing. Whether we drag in the businesses or not, it's going to benefit the people in this town. They'll enjoy their downtown. They know they're safe. Their cars are safe.
So I couldn't agree with you more. Every successful revitalization of an area, whether it be in a city or town, starts with parking and infrastructure. Manchester, New Hampshire did it in their business district, a completely and utterly crime-ridden area at one point. They improved the streetscapes, they put in the proper infrastructure. It's now a vibrant area. Norwood provided parking. It wasn't just a simple, hey, we're going to open this theater and they'll come. They provided the proper infrastructure. Westwood is in the process of doing it right now. Westwood is a small center, if you think about it. So, no matter where you are, you're absolutely right. In the bonus, really, is the streetscaping. Centralizing the parking into various areas, even if it takes that, so it takes it off of the streets and opens that up a little bit. The streetscaping becomes an added bonus. As far as Pleasant Street, that's above my pay grade. However, I will say that one of the things I envisioned was a connecting pedestrian walkway from the green area in front of the church, which they've always been very gracious in allowing us to use at the First Parish, right over into the Lucius Clap and what was known as the Randolph Savings Bank. Connect those things, make them viable for people. I take my kids down there all the time, and crossing that street can be a little bit of a trick sometimes on a bike. So I agree,
I sat with Town Manager Crimmins, and he laughs because I drew it on a napkin, and I showed him what I had thought. When we could have bought Pachico's for next to nothing, that's where your walkway was going to be, was up over the street down to where Honeydew was. And there would have been no problems going across that road at that time. And in the building that's being built now, if the fire station was gone and that parking garage had gone in there, you could have cantilevered it right over to Freeman Street, right up against that building. The people would have walked out of right into the second floor of the garage.
Yeah.
But a good friend of mine said, if it makes sense, we're definitely not going to do it.
Mr.
Thank
Carrera,
you.
I think that, I just
Miller.
want to respond. Mr. Carrera, I think you're absolutely correct. Infrastructure and parking are key elements in the reconstruction of our downtown. And I think when you had mentioned that there's a ton of funding at the state level. As I mentioned earlier today, Secretary Ash, at one point, when he was asked about funding for such projects, actually said there's absolutely no money available to do such projects. And probably within 60 days later, Brockton received a $10 million grant to build a parking garage downtown Brockton. I say that because the application process that we've got to go through, that we're mandated to go through, for lack of a better word, is like a three-legged stool. A three-legged stool is comprised of the community, government, and the private sector. Any one of those sectors that do not or is not on that same page, that stool cannot stand. So we're going through this entire process, not only because we're mandated, but I firmly believe, even though there is nothing in writing from the state government that basically says, if for some reason towns, and what we're trying to do is do something for Stoughton, but if towns can all get on the same page, then the availability of that type of funding could become available to this town. We're ready, at this here point. I think that your board, as well as the planning board, did an extraordinary job, which is very difficult, when we're talking about change, to really get on board with the zoning here. And I've heard from a number of outside folks, both in government as well as the private sector, that said Stoughton is starting to get on the same page. We have thousands of cars that go through the center of town right now. But what they're doing is trying to just hurry up and get through downtown. If we can get 10% of those cars to pull over, stop, get something to eat, do some business downtown, we can begin to capture those dollars that are leaking out of our community. And those dollars that leak out, impact what it is that we can do in terms of extra projects, because that's revenue that comes to the town of Stoughton. And, we firmly believe that although this is conceptual at this here point, at some point, these projects will become a reality. And in becoming a reality, that means that they still have to go through the exact same process that they've gone through previously. So somebody that has a specific project will still have to go to the planning department. It'll still have to come to the Board of Selectmen. What we will be doing is we'll have sort of a comprehensive program whereby we will be able to see where the funding's coming from, how many jobs are going to be created, what type of revenue is going to come to the town. And those are the things that we want to try to, or at least attempt to do without, and I have to premise that, without raising the taxes on Stoughton residents as we see it today. So that private public partnership, we are really and truly trying to, look and save, because we feel that at some point, the taxes are going to get too high. There are too many elderly residents in Stoughton that are not going to be able to continuously get hit with a $60 or $70 or whatever that might be. At some point, it'll become too much. And we really do feel as if, putting this plan together, being accepted by the board, being accepted by the planning board, will result in more revenue and a better quality of life for Stoughton residents.
Thank you very much for saying that, Mr. Nunnally. You're preaching to the choir. We are all on board. One thing that we don't have is a work group to discuss this offline so we can hash it out, do our due diligence. And that's what one of the requests are tonight. But another request is on the table is, if we did go down that path, how would that work for the staff? And that's under Mr. Town Manager Tisdale's purview. How would that work? Because typically, a document such as this, we would pass to all of your staff and committees, have them vetted, then bring us information back. But that's the bureaucracy that we have. But that is our per usual process. So I would like for you to weigh in on that, Mr. Tisdale. And I didn't forget you, Vice Chair Cavey, but this just lends itself to this question.
So if
right
I
here, right
understand
now.
right, we're looking to form a working group for this?
We're looking, yes, we're looking to form a subcommittee. The Redevelopment Authority voted unanimously to appoint myself, Chair, and Treasurer Nunnally to a working group subcommittee with the Select Board. The preference would be to have a liaison of some sort. That could come as a town employee. That could also come as a resident with the professional experience to assist in the process. But I think we wanted to sort of see how you felt about that and if that was something that you could devote an employee's time to. I understand we're missing some key parts here, like the planner right now.
So what is the goal of the working group?
The goal is to iron out any wrinkles within the urban renewal plan, missteps that, might be existing in the current plan. How do we present a plan that the Select Board, the Redevelopment Authority, and the residents are all on board with, or happy with? Something we can present to DHCD, and obviously the Planning Board is also a big part of that. So, which is why a town planner would typically fall in nicely to this, but we do have an economic director as well, economic development director.
Yeah, I mean, I think the positions that Mark just mentioned, a town planner, our economic development director, myself, would be key people that your Select Board would be looking for comments from once we review their plan, like you would with any other project that comes in front of you. Fortunately, we do not have a town planner currently. We do have an economic development coordinator. I'm pretty sure your plan is probably pretty comprehensive and thick and.
I agree, but I think it's vital that somebody, and you brought up Ms. McCarthy, she has been an advocate for the Redevelopment Authority for some time. She's very knowledgeable about this, and we've actually leaned on her for some contacts. She has a bank consortium set up. So Pam's doing a lot of the work already. I think from our perspective, it would be vital to have somebody to, although we have a comprehensive plan, she's on the ground. It's her feet on the ground. And I think it would be helpful day to day to have that intelligence, that knowledge coming into this.
As well as the knowledge coming in, as well as the knowledge coming out.
Right.
Because, it's our intention, and I do, being familiar with, committees and staffs, that tend to sometimes have to shoulder the weight of the project. We fully intend to continue with our consultants. We want to make sure that staff, as well as the board members, both at the planning as well as the select board, are kept fully aware. And we understand that as we're starting down this road again, that it is vital that we're able to give folks at the staff level information that they can either bring back to the board or board members that can bring back to the board, so that we're not constantly coming back every 6 weeks or so to give you sort of an update and sort of regurgitating the information. This would be a steady flow of information, hopefully going out as well as coming in. So although we would love to be able to have someone understand the full 90-page document, we do realize that, staffs and select boards and planning boards have a lot more to do. This is our focus. So we're going to make sure that, our consultants are going to be there to answer any questions, and we're going to take whatever suggestions that come back. So we're not saying that we want the economic development director or the planning manager to sort of substitute what it is that our consultants are going to do. We're going to fully employ our consultants until this project is voted up or down.
And if I may put it into simpler terms, we all agreed we needed a car. Now we're picking color. Do we want leather, heated seats, or crank windows? So just to keep it simple, that's really where we're at now. Our developer's still building the car, and we'll put all those finishes in. But it's up to us collectively. And I think it's important that a town staff member be involved because you're on the ground every day. We're not. We show up for meetings and we do our job, but we're not in your seat, nor are we in any of your employees' seats.
Town Manager Tisdale, how would a consultant work on your side of the house? So you have vacancies, this and that. So how would that work for you, having your own on this side?
I'm trying to think about this. I usually try to think a lot before I speak, but with this particular situation, just an update for everybody. We all know that the town planner pool out there is very slim. We went out recently, could not find a town planner. So from a temporary basis, Pam McCarthy will be taking on acting town planner duties along with her other job. So there's a lot of work just to do her normal duties every day for planning and economic development activities. The idea is, in a few months, 3-6 months, we go out again, see if there's a different pool out there for town planners, and get a seasoned town planner in here, which is critical for what you're doing right now. That's really the most critical person in there, along with an economic development coordinator and someone of my nature when I'm in my other job.
If you ever get back to it.
But right now, two out of those 3 positions are not here, and one is taking on the duties of another one. So just from a staff standpoint, we're squeezing people.
And Mark, I don't want you to think we're going to be leaning heavily on Pam. The concept here is for whomever a staff member is from the town is able to dip into those comments. We have a consultant to do the heavy lifting. So I'm not interested in adding burden to the town. I'm interested for input and, as Mr. Nunnally said, output.
Yeah. What I would like to do is have a discussion with Ms. McCarthy and think about it a little more myself. Maybe there's something we can do in combination with hiring a consultant of ourselves. Typically, when there's a large project presented to any board or commission that doesn't have expertise or time in the area to do it, sometimes they hire a peer reviewer, a third party, to review the work that was done of somebody else. So that might be an option, but I'd have to think a little more about that. I also think the planning board could be helpful in this situation.
They already have been, yes.
So I think instead of making decisions right now on the spot, we should think about this a little more and how we can make this work for everybody.
So if I may, one of the things that we're up against right now is we're forming stakeholder meetings, and we really would like to get at least that core group of subcommittee members, i.e. the select board members and the already appointed redevelopment members together, so we can start working a little bit ahead of this, sort of like being in the bullpen.
Vice Chair Cavey.
Yeah, to that end, I don't want to, if anybody has changed their mind, by all means, let me know. But I think we do have 2 members who have expressed interest in this. And so for that purpose, I'd like to nominate Scott Carrera and Lou Gito to serve as liaison
I'll
to
second
this
that.
committee.
I think that you may want to go back to where you were before, and you might want to be on that committee, and Scott. So I would just suggest that you do that.
Okay. In that case, I will nominate.
Because I think that you were involved in some of the other stuff in the downtown, and know what you'd like to do. So that might be a better better mix. I think that Scott has done a lot of work with the chair of this committee, and it might be a better way to address this. But before we vote on that, Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Zito.
I think getting back to the resource issue, the town has a lot of holes right now that it needs to fill, and there is a lot of work to do. And the Redevelopment Authority has some money. They've got about $500,000, more or less, that they can use to do consulting work, planning work, whatever needs to be done. They are sort of like the core that pulls people together and brings the pieces together. The town needs to help them, but I don't think that we have a lot of extra bodies to do that, and to put a burden on the planning function at the present time makes hardly any sense at all, because there are a lot of other things that need to be done, and there are resources available that they have to do that kind of work. That does not mean that the town and the Redevelopment Authority don't need to work closely together to exchange information and make sure that we're not tripping over one another. But that's a different matter than having the town bear another burden at a time when it really doesn't have resources to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Gito, for sharing that insight. I would like to,
Point of order. We still have the motion on the table.
we have a motion on the table.
Yeah.
We have a nomination.
Favor.
We have two nominations, but I would like to ask Mr. Carrara if he would accept that nomination before we vote. Okay. Great. So there's a nomination on the table. Did anyone second? Because there was a change. Okay. So that is Vice Chair Cavey and Mr. Carrara. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well.
Thank you, Madam
There
Chair.
you have your Select Board liaisons.
We will, I'll get the group moving forward, and we'll have
Before
updates
you
through.
get out there, actually, I do have a couple of things I wanted to raise.
Please.
Sure.
I apologize. So I've been a select board member for about just under 5 years. 4 months, 4 years, 10 months, and in that time, I've sort of witnessed the Redevelopment Authority, a lot of their efforts being stymied. And this is my own opinion. Because oftentimes, I've seen this also sort of a similar, the similar sort of interesting dynamics that happen with these elected bodies. We see it all the time with the school committee because we're very accustomed to it. It's a very different dynamic with the Redevelopment Authority. Oftentimes, you'll come before us, hat in hand, just asking, please, like, there's things we want to do. And I've seen the Redevelopment Authority be sent away with not a whole lot on numerous occasions. And given the fact that you are, elected officials, peers, I've really kind of grown bothered by that year over year over year. So I want to see you have the sort of access that you need to do the things you're looking to do. You are have all delivered on promises you've made in this space and other spaces time and time again. And so, I support the work that you're doing. I'm actually very glad to be able to work with you in the future as a liaison. But even more than that, I think it's like time to stop putting stick in your spokes, right? It's time to I think, to really give you guys the ball and just say, what do you need? And that's my own view. Maybe other people see it totally differently, but I want to see, the next 5 years to be sort of like you guys unleashing, creating some really vital changes to our downtown, to other areas in our economic areas within our town. The town has chose to have a redevelopment authority, and then done very little to utilize anybody who's run for a seat on it. And I think that's just not a good use of our time. Now, there are unfortunately there's roadblocks and there's gatekeepers. To the extent that I can be the gate opener, I'd like to be a part of that, because I really do want to see you guys succeeding in some areas that I think you have not had an opportunity to really get dirty in. And so for that reason, I just wanted to, really more than anything else, speak and just express my gratitude for the work you've done, the work to get elected. Now that you're elected, like the work you're doing to try to better the downtown, and I'm looking forward to the next 5 years and seeing some real powerful impact of the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Steve, and I'll say that I appreciate your comments. One of the primary focuses for creating the subcommittee was to bring us together. You're absolutely right. The Redevelopment Authority has brought an awful lot over the course of the years since 1963, when it was created, to the table, and more often than not, they unfortunately have left frustrated, hat in hand, and no progress. This is an opportunity, and this very project was rejected by another board who did not see the value in what we had to offer. I wasn't on that board at that time. We have picked that up because we're convinced that not only is this necessary to enliven our downtown, but I see an opportunity here to work together. You're right. We're elected officials on the same par as you. Different positions, different responsibilities, but we're all equal in this room. And I want to thank you for recognizing that, Steve.
Thank you very much, and
just
we
have
look
one
forward
last-
to working collaboratively with you.
As
And
do we.
yes, Mr.
I just have
Nunnally?
just
Yes.
one last comment, because I did want to, speak towards the issue that Mr. Gito brought forward. And you're absolutely correct. The Stoughton Redevelopment Authority does have resources, financial resources, that we're trying to utilize for the town. One thing that I learned from that comment is that the town is because of the holes we have, the town is in need of potentially trying to hire a consultant to fill some of those holes. This committee that's being established, of which I will be part of, would be wholeheartedly willing to go out and identify financial resources that could do just exactly what you're saying in terms of bringing on people that have expertise on a limited basis to help fill the holes at the town. So I appreciate you saying that, because you know what, it got my head spinning, and within that 10 minutes I've already identified a potential resource at the state level that could potentially provide resources to all of us to help fill those holes. Thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me speak.
You what? Yes, Roberta, hi.
And the best for last.
Yes, the best for last.
Yeah. Mr. Cavey, I appreciate what you said, and we still have on the table the Armory that was brought forward. I'll go back, had a great meeting in May with a lot of key players, and it's unfortunate that I never got to speak to the board about this, because I was thinking, we're having a special town meeting now. We could have went to the CPC for a couple million, and we could have went to the town meeting for a couple, and now that time is wasted. It's talk, and nothing gets done. I have a plan with other people. You can like it or you can dislike it, but it would be great if you gave me the 5 minutes, because I talk fast, to give it to you. And if you say, this stinks, get out, fine. But it would be nice if you're saying you want to hear what we have to say, but when you get no response after 5 months, you really don't want to hear what we have to say. And I see it's control, control, control. Maybe because it's not this board's idea, and I'm sorry to say that it's not a good idea, but it may be. It may be a good idea. And Mark wasn't privy to it, Robin was there. I mean, I'm going back. This is back in April and May. And that armory's, it's been sitting and rotting, and maybe at this town meeting, we would have got a few $1 million to seal it up, but that's washed away. But I will appreciate if you do give me the soapbox for 5 minutes and tell you what we had to say. Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I entertain a motion to adjourn, or do you need something more from us at this point?
Please.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Have
again.
a wonderful evening. Bye. Moving to our next agenda item, which is special capital projects. And I think, Ms. LeBlanc, you have a tally for us? We can talk about it, right? You want to
Madam
show the
Chair.
list? Oh,
Do you want to postpone this till Joe gets back?
oh, no, Joe responded.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't respond.
okay.
Yeah, that was me, and I apologize.
What-
I mean, if we've got 4, and you can whiz through a
Excel spreadsheet.
spreadsheet in record time.
Yeah, I already got everything compiled, actually, based on what we had. But there's a couple areas that I'd like to kind of, yeah, no, I'd like to just discuss, if Madam Chair, if you'll indulge me.
Yes.
It looks like we all, not everybody, but it looks like some of us kind of like view the assignment differently. And so I just want to, so we're comparing apples to apples here. I just want to make sure that we're all sort of speaking the same language, because in the case of, for example, Joe and I, we more or less went with the capital projects that were listed, and we gave every project there a rank of somewhere between 1 to 5. Madam Chair, it looks like the way you had read the instructions had you ranking like 1 to 5, like the order of your projects, which they could all actually be 5s, but you had to sort of, or you had to kind of pick an order. But it also left some other projects unaddressed. And Mr. Gito actually did a much more thorough job. Actually, I think you included a ranking of 1 to 5, but you also added additional projects that. Yeah. Exactly. But that also leaves a number of projects that are not ranked, like Bird Street.
Those projects that I didn't rank have a 0.
Zeros? Okay, fair enough. So,
Presuming that we only had 5 projects to choose.
I don't think that was not how I read it. I read it that here are a bunch of projects. How badly do you want to see these be completed? And if you want them all to be,
I'm comfortable with my ranking.
okay.
I'm comfortable with my ranking, and just to try to summarize, we wanted to prioritize the list because the next step is to send that list out to our citizens to have them vote on it. So we're going to do a survey. So first, it was our list, our priorities, and if we agreed that, come to consensus that we agree that this is the list we want the residents to vote on, then we can move forward.
Okay.
So far, everyone has responded.
Yeah, well, Mr. Kerr did not.
Mr. Kerr.
Did not have a chance to respond.
But you did, before you left, you said you only had 2. He told me verbally he only had 2.
Okay. Which were those?
Yes.
I'll give that a rank of 5 for you. Like that's the top ranking. And then what was the other one?
And then I wanted to do Park Street sewer back towards the square.
Prospect Street
Okay.
to the square.
And then, so would you then give everything else a zero ranking?
Yeah, I didn't.
It's okay, it's okay. I understand.
I didn't know I had a, Deborah said, what did I think? And I said the armory and that, and
Those are your top priorities.
and like a parking garage ways in there too.
Okay, so for our purposes, that there is a difference between a zero ranking and like no ranking at all, okay? Because we're gonna take the averages. So if you're saying like, I don't even like, I don't wanna weigh, I don't weigh in on these other projects. Yeah, so then I'll leave that as blank. Mr. Gito, you said that everything else is a zero for you. And Ms. Roberts, the ones that you left blank, are those zeros or do you just not weighing in?
Those are
Correct.
blank.
Blank, okay.
Blanks means blank. Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so things more or less shook out the way they did originally, so I think we're in pretty good shape. But we have a top five. The number one item that everyone agrees is a high priority is the online permitting software. That is, based on these numbers, 4.5 out of 5, right? So it's pretty much everybody agrees that's way up there. Next is the renovation expansion of the police station at 3.5. And that's with a score of a 4, a 5, a 5, a blank, and a 0. Train station renovation is the next item. Train station, so that's a 3, 5, 5, blank, 0. Total average is 3.25. And then we have 2 that show up as with an average rank of 3. That's the ADA improvements to Lucius Clapp Building, and also the town hall parking and landscaping. I'm actually kind of surprised that the armory didn't make it in here, but it just squeaked below that. Like that would be like the 6th one.
There's something wrong with that math.
So that's 2.6. But that would be a 6th one. But I think top 5 probably. So number 1 is online permitting software. Number 2 is renovation expansion of the police station. Correct. Number 3 is the train station renovation and reuse, followed by Lucius Clapp ADA compliance, and town hall parking and landscaping improvements. So I'll send this to everybody in an email so you all have what I'm looking at, just to make sure, you can check to see, make sure I didn't do anything wrong. But that's what I've got here.
Okay. So our next steps are to send that to Town Manager Tisdale, develop a survey, send it out to residents. Now, what happens if we wanted to actually expand that to the top 6? Then somebody would say, oh, if you do 6, you have to do 7, right? So it's no way to get the armory in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Doesn't mean they're etched in stone. That's all I have to tell you.
yeah,
I mean, we got a master plan that was laid out, and we don't even follow that either. That's why I was like, I'm not gonna put 0 against something. Because it would hurt.
What are your thoughts, Town Manager Tisdale?
I think it's fine having 7 or 8 or 10 projects, to be honest with you. I'm
Because
just misunderstanding the goal. This was part of our 5-year plan we're talking about, not the 1-year plan. So
Yes.
the 5-year plan.
This is the 5-year.
What I was trying to get guidance was all the priorities from each board member from a special project standpoint. We compile those, not necessarily narrow it down to 5, but have the public help us narrow it down to 5. But you've actually kind of taken that step, which is great. You've narrowed it down to 5 yourself. And now I guess we're trying to get the public to weigh in on the actual ranking of those 5, right? Or 7, 5 to 7, whatever we're
5
talking
to
about.
7.
Okay, so, I mean, I
Yeah.
think we're getting closer to the finish line. I was envisioning having 10, 15, 20 of these things. So, yeah, we can do a simple Survey Monkey on this.
Excellent.
Yep. No, that's why we need this. This was the goal. I mean, hey, staff needs direction too on what we're supposed to be working on. And if each board or different boards come to staff members with 5 or 6 different priorities, think about how many things are talked to us. We're left not knowing what to do. This is actually giving us a path on what we should be working on, which is what we need, so.
And Timothy, Phillips, and Galvin, they asked us, what are our priorities? So if they're in a meeting, they know exactly, what to talk. Oh, Stoughton needs this, and they might need some funding, but without us giving them a heads up or a list, they don't know. They don't know what we're working on. So this is helpful. So we could always change the scope. So originally, the scope was top 5, send it out to a resident so they could prioritize that list. We could change the scope, give them the top 10, and have them prioritize the top 10.
Why don't we look at this as an annual event? Try not to sort of make this forever this year. Try to make it simple. You can do this again next year and create that list. Don't throw away the list that we have. I mean, if we end up from having the 5, choose one that we say that's the top priority to work on. Next year, there may be another one that gets there. And so that we could just have this huge list that we'll keep whipsawing. There'll be something on and something off and so on and so forth. I just think if we're starting out with something, we ought to just get it in place and have us get there, rather than say, oh, well, somebody might like, we're going to make somebody unhappy because we don't have number 8 on the list.
All right.
Let's just do that.
So were you going to say something, Vice Chair Cavey or
Yeah, I
Town
think-
Manager Tisdale?
I think we should stay focused, and I think 5 is a good number to focus on. These are all things that keep on coming. A lot of these come up year over year. Like, we're all aware of them, and like, the only thing I would actually just advocate for is actually adding the armory on there, because that is something that, like, I think it's time to stop, like, playing around with that. Like, something's got to happen.
Yeah, we're all passionate on this table. We're all passionate about the armory.
And if we just decide not to do anything, like, at least we have to actually make a decision and just. We have the right to do it. Yeah. Yeah. So if you'll add that, just that 6th item on, I think that we'll just say, like, those are the things, like, this year we're going to try to, like, put a lot of energy into, and town staff, like, should prioritize these over other projects. Correct.
And plan for it, right?
If we put the Armory on and we sort of go with the idea of moving the rec center into there, Biden's sending out stuff to aid children because what they suffered through the COVID, he wants to bounce them back. They're noticing there's depression. We could potentially get money, federal government money, that might, the way we do that, could fund it. To me, it fits everything that Matt Cauchon could ever want. I mean, there's so much he could do with that. I talked to Town Manager Tisdale. They're all worried about, there's a puddle there in the water. We know how to handle that and make it disappear. It doesn't disappear, it just goes underground. So it's not a problem. You got football fields with massive drainage pipes under them, so it doesn't matter. That could be a mini football field area for them kids to play outside. They can't play outside in this center. Granted, everybody thinks this is a great thing. It's only fueling a small area of the residents in this town. My view for that thing is so big that we could add on to that building, put a Franklin Field House. If anybody's ever been to the Franklin Field House out west, you put a walking track around it, put a swimming pool on the inside. The elderly can take a trip there, do aerobics in the pool during the day. People can walk around the track or whatever inside on a rainy day. They're interacting, their kids could be there, and then the swim team can have the pool at the end of the day instead of traveling to find a pool for them to train in. These are the things that shouldn't have been done. And I hate to tell you, it should have been done across the street from the junior high. We should have grabbed that, and that should have been part of that whole project. But everybody put their hands over their ears. And now they go, oh, look what's over there. I says, yeah, superintendent's offices could have been there. Not where they are now.
A lot of great ideas.
You could have contained a lot of the traffic problems in there too. But nobody, makes sense, don't do it.
So, Mr. Tisdale, I know you're trying to say, next steps, or are you talking about?
No,
or?
I just want to clarify. So when we come up with our 5-year capital plan for your board, and we came up with a special project category, okay? And we tried to clearly define it, but I don't think we probably could define it as clear as we probably should have.
Okay, go on. How would you do? Because I thought we did define it.
I think I had something in my head. But
Okay.
say, for example, like there's other things we want to do, like trail improvements. That would be a special project. But that's something we don't build into our 5-year plan because it didn't make the top 6. I think we need to think about this, like some of the low-hanging fruit. I think we need to build in. I mean, a $50,000, $100,000 trail improvement type of project, we should be rolling into the plan. So these things are large, right? Most of these are pretty large projects, multi-million-dollar projects. These are in a category by their own. But I just want to make sure we're not limiting ourselves in our 5-year capital plan by not putting in some of the low-hanging fruit.
That wasn't my understanding. In fact, I would say that it's really just about like, and this is my own reading of this, is that it's about, this was really a concern about prioritizing resources, right? If you could only write one grant, which one is it going to be for? Or if you know something's going to take 100 hours, man hours to work through, and the same people are going to be working on it. Maybe the ADA improvements for Lucius Clapp and also the train station renovations. It's like there's so much overlap. You got the same people working on it. Like, which one should they prioritize? But with all of the other, I think like it doesn't stop us from having. I think we ought to have a lot of projects that are technically special projects, but a little bit more like more manageable. If just one person needs it, it's 10 hours. Like it's not stopping you. But it's when you're trying to decide like what are my priorities. I can only do one of these things. Which one is it going to be? I would really just say that these top large projects are probably, you're right, in a class of their own, and oftentimes in competition with each other for resources, both funding and also just human resources, personnel.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Gito?
I passed out something that basically dealt with sort of principles that we should have when we're looking at a capital plan. And what I suggested was that, and I'm going to read this just so that
Yes, please do. I think that's the one that's in our package, but please read it, Mr. Gito.
Sort of capital planning principles. We will most generally prioritize with balance our decisions as follows. And I'm not saying that this is what we'll agree to, but this is a draft. Systems to inform the citizens of the multifaceted health of the town so they can continue to make good decisions for the community is like the first priority. The second is maintenance of infrastructure that those before us put in place. The third was acquisition of properties of major importance to the needs of the community. In other words, sometimes a piece of property will come up and we know that we need to take advantage of that. I mean, as Scott said earlier on something, maybe we should have bought a piece of property and kept it in reserve, because like the school department, in terms of the Park Street property or Line Lumber property, they did that, and we need to be forward thinking. The next is construction of new or major renovations to schools, town buildings, and infrastructure. These are the things that basically are on the list that we're dealing with. Decisions to fund capital items to support existing and expanding programs. And then decisions to experiment with new programs. So, I mean, we can't, when we're putting together a 5-year capital plan, we can't pretend that we don't have huge problems in terms of the infrastructure that we already have in place. I mean, we're looking at reports that have come into us that say we have to spend $6 million a year for several years for water. I don't know what the sewer infrastructure is, but there are projects like the Park Street sewer, like the Washington Street sewer, that we need to be thinking about. There are roadway projects, not roadway projects, but road maintenance. I've said before, we're doing 3 years, 3 miles of roadway repair a year. Easton is doing 13. Doesn't make sense to me. I mean, we've got infrastructure that was built well before Easton did most of its development. Most of our development occurred in the late 40s to the mid-70s. That's when most of the subdivisions went in. And many of them are in bad repair. I think one area is being worked on this year. But we have to recognize that people before us put a lot of money into projects that we have been for years, not you and me necessarily, but we as a town have been neglecting to maintain. We have been dealing with our buildings with a facilities master plan, but we need to recognize that we have other plans that are coming in that say we've got to fix these things, and we've got to do the other things that I mentioned. So it's not just these 5 projects that we're dealing with. We're dealing with a whole range of things, because that's what makes the town. It's not cutting a ribbon on something new. It's maintaining and upgrading the things that we already have. And that's our job.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Gito.
So, I mean, I don't know where we want to go with this, but it seems to me that we need to have some ground rules of some kind. I tried to write these down and do it in a way that didn't say, you know, these are cast in stone, but there's a priority for doing business. And I think we ought to come to an agreement on, not necessarily tonight, I'm not suggesting that. But I think we ought to have some sense of where we think things should be going. Maybe the next board will think something different. I mean, this board isn't necessarily going to think that this is the greatest thing in the world, but we ought to have something that says, you know, there's a path here that we're headed on. The town has a direction.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gito, for your insight and your direction. That information was included. And Mr. Town Manager Tisdale was in agreement with that. He has an approach that he's taking, which is very similar to what you said. So, but with all due respect to my fellow board members, are we ready to move on to the next agenda item and get the survey, knowing that we're going to heed to Mr. Gito's suggestions and insight?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So we'll hear more from Mr. Tisdale on when that survey will be distributed, and so the citizens will know to look for it so they can respond. Going to our next agenda item, it's number 9, vote to open the warrant.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair Cavey.
We have already discussed this and our reasons for it. So that we can stick with our timeline, I would like to make a motion to open the warrant for a November 28th town meeting that will be held at the high school auditorium.
Can I get a second on that? Yes. All, any discussion? Oh, because Scott, Mr. Carrara was away. He didn't,
Yeah.
you don't have the timeline.
Is the timeline going to fit? Because I was told that it was going to put us closer to December.
So I can share the timeline with you, and it's actually, if you give me just 1 second, I'll open it up and we can just
I
kind of.
have this piece of paper.
Yeah,
if that
it's
would be
changed a
helpful.
little since then,
Okay.
but not by much. Street town meeting. 1 second.
Okay. So
This
what?
isn't helpful to say, but I did email it to you, so you should have it in your inbox. But
Yeah,
but I
right.
know that's not necessarily. Okay. Okay. So you might
Oh,
have
yeah,
it.
I got it, yeah.
But the town moderator came by our last meeting, and my original recommendation was earlier. He asked that we move it to November 28th. He felt like that would give people more time to do the work they need to do. We are still able to meet all of our obligations with regard to timing. If we open it tonight, it's a Monday. Yes. So the week before that is the week of Thanksgiving. Our original recommendation was the week before that one, which I've forgotten the date now, but it was 2 weeks before the 28th, so the 14th or so. And moderator asked that we instead have it the day after the weekend of Thanksgiving. He thought that would be better overall. That if we open the warrant tonight, the plan is to close it on the 28th, so that's 2 weeks. We are required to have it open for 7 days, but it'll be open for 14. This allows the school committee opportunity to vote on some articles that they want to insert. So we close it, so that their vote is starting out on the 28th. We close the warrant on October 4th. That's the 14 days. And then special town meeting would be on 11/28/2022, which allows 55 days. By statute, we need to allow 42. So I think generally the consensus has been, though, with the warrant open and anything could happen, is to keep this warrant very skinny and only to items that are critical. So as of right now, I'm only aware of like 4 or 5 articles going in. So it's going to be a very small one, unless the deluge comes in. But
I can tell you, I'll be only voting on anything that's critical.
Then
And
it
that's
sounds
all we should be voting on.
sounds like one more member is in agreement. So I think that's probably where we're going is with a very skinny.
I've always said special town meetings,
It's better be
the
special.
way I was taught, I know it might not be written, but they're becoming too familiar. It's like, oh, quick, let's get this before this thing gets off the ground. Oh, let's turn these in and renew these things.
Yeah.
No, it's roofs, heating systems, tragedies that take place, not just, hey, we didn't get it at the ATM, let's get it now.
Well, sounds like we're all on the same page, and that's the goal. So it might be a one day event, and that's the goal, is to kind of keep this small. So even though it's close to December, it's probably a one-nighter.
Okay, I'm good to go. Thank you.
So motion on the table, we had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you. And agenda item number 10, update on Community Paradigm's permanent town manager search.
I will not be taking part in this.
So the
Vice Chair KV has an update.
Yeah, so the update is, Joe McCrisky and I have limited the number of candidates we're going to be looking down to 7 people. I think we had originally 18, and we've reduced that to 7. The interviews are scheduled for next week, Monday and Tuesday. So the screening committee interviews will be, not us, no, it's a screening committee. We'll be interviewing those 6 candidates to reduce that list to an even smaller candidate pool that we will then be looking at. I'm not exactly sure what the time frame on that is, but we should have more information by the next time we meet. By the screening committee. The screening committee interviews on Monday and Tuesday of next week. So that's it.
Any other updates?
Oh, geez. I'm sorry. I'll email it to you.
Those are the same ones you said on Thursday?
Yeah, I
Mr.
wasn't entirely
Prisky.
sure. I mean, we'd had a conversation about this. I just didn't write it down in my notes who they were. But they're people that Bernie was aware of, and it was former town managers, town administrators, people who stood out as certainly being knowledgeable in this area. So, but I will get names for you.
It'll be you and Joe. It'll be the 2 people from Paradigm and a couple people from...
I think it's 2 or 3 town administrators / town managers. Sure.
Anything else, Vice Chair Cavey?
Nope.
All right. I ask for a motion to enter into executive session to consider discussion on strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the DPW union pursuant to GL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, and to approve executive session minutes of July 19th and August 2nd, 2022. I find that discussing these matters in open session would be detrimental to the town's negotiating position, therefore will be discussed in executive session.
Motion to enter an executive session and to
Adjourn.
adjourn from executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Oh, roll call. Mr. Gito? Vice Chair Cavey?
Yes.
Mr. Carrara?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone.